Hi, this is Ali Arango from Game Visuals, and today I want to show you how to go from an exterior starship scene to an interior starship scene. So basically our goal is to have a player walk up to a spaceship, press a button, and then go inside of that spaceship. And when the character goes inside of that spaceship, the scene will change. The character will be able to walk around inside of the spaceship, and then the character will be able to leave the spaceship, changing the scene again so that the character goes back to an exterior scene where you see the spaceship from the outside. So let's get started. Okay, what you see in front of you is the Gdevelop startup screen. I like to start up these tutorials where we're pretty much starting right from the beginning. So we're going to click on create a new project. We have this create a new game menu that pops up. We're going to scroll down. We're going to select empty game. Now we have this panel, this project panel pop up to the side here. What we want to do is look to this plus button that's below scenes. We're going to left click there and we have a new scene that was made. We're going to left click on these three dots and then we're going to select rename. We're going to name this new scene just one. We're calling it one just because one is very easy to quickly enter in for the scene. I'm going to left click down here to get out of that menu select. So now that we have this, we're going to look to our scene name one and we're going to left click right on this panel. Okay, so now that we left clicked on that, now we have this object panel that opened up to the right here. We're going to click this plus button here. When we did that, we had a menu pop up that's an add new object menu. We're going to left click on sprite. And then now we have this other menu pop up that has our object name, properties, as well as behaviors. We're going to change the object name to player. Okay, so now that we have this object named player, now what we're going to do is we're going to look to our right. We're going to click this plus button to the right. We're then going to click the plus button to the left. And we're going to go to where I have a sprite set up. So I'm going to select desktop. I'm going to click on spaceship scene tutorial. And then for this first sprite, we want this idle sprite. So I'm going to left click here. And then I'm going to click open. Okay, so now basically what we have is just this one sprite here, and we have this animation here that's labeled as 0. What we're going to do is where it says optional animation name, we're going to left click here, and then we're going to name this idle, since this is going to represent our idle animation. What we want to do now is we want to add more animation to this. We're going to add a top-down walking animation. To do that, we're going to go to our right. We're going to click on that plus button to the right. Now we're going to go to the plus button to the left, and we're going to go back to where I had those sprites set up, which is this spaceship scene tutorial. And now I'm going to click on the spaceship scene player animation. I'm going to double click here. Then I have another folder. I'm going to double click here. So I have all the sprites right here. I'm going to, on my keyboard, hold Control and then press A. This selected all of the sprites. So that shortcut was just Control A, allows you to select all of these sprites. I'm then going to click open. Okay, so now we have all of these sprites here. So we have one animation that's just one frame, which is idle. We have now a second animation, which is a bunch of sprites. So the first animation is named idle, and it's animation number 0 named idle, and then we have animation number 1. So for this, where we see optional animation name, we're going to click here and we're going to name this walk. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want this to be a looping animation. So see where this says don't loop? We're going to left click there for loop. And then now for this preview right here, or this time, let's click this and see how this looks. So this is showing us how our animation will look. And that's actually not bad. I'm going to click OK. I think I want this to be slightly faster. So I'm going to change this to 0.05. And then I'm going to click just to get out of that selection, then click preview. So I think I want this. So I'm going to click OK. So now that we have this set up, you can adjust your timing as you see right here. So 0.08 was slower, whereas 0.05 is slightly faster. So now that we have this, what we're going to do is click okay. We have our animation set up before we click apply. That's why I paused. Let's go to behavior. So our animation sprites are in. However, we want to go to behaviors. Gdevelop is a spectacular piece of software. One of the things that's spectacular about it is how easily we can set up to move our characters around, particularly this player character. So we're going to click this plus button here to bring up these behaviors here. Then we're going to scroll down and we're going to look for a top-down movement. So we're going to left click here. We have these options here. We're going to scroll down. These options here are fine. So now we're going to click apply. So now we have our player sprites in as well as a top-down behavior on our player character. Okay, I'm going to roll my mouse wheel back and you can see this area here, which is defined by this square black outline. So this is our work area. What I want to do is change this. So to do that, what I'm going to do is go to our upper left. I'm going to click on this project manager button. I'm going to go to where we see game settings. I'm then going to go to properties. And then where we have this game Windows width, I'm going to change this to 1280. And then for the game window height, I'm going to change this to 720. And then with those changes there, I just left click to try to get off of that input there. So anyway, this is correct. I'm going to click apply. And when we clicked apply, see how we don't see any change in this? I'm going to roll my mouse wheel back so you can see better. We don't see any change. What you can do to have this area here reflect the changes you just made is go to this where it says undo the last changes. This is kind of strange, but this works. We're going to just left click there. And then once we left click there, now we can see, I'm just holding the middle mouse button to pan our view. Now we can see the changes here. So our work area has changed to the settings that we set in our game settings. Okay, so now that we have our area here set up, let's left click on our player and then left click and drag our player out. So here's our player as the player will appear on the screen. This is too big, so what we can do is hold the shift key down. We'll hold the shift key down and then we'll hover over this corner right here. And by doing that, I'm still holding shift, I can constrain, which means that I can shrink, just let go of shift. We can shrink our player down without having our player lose its constraints. Like it looks how it's supposed to look. So what I'm going to do is just pull the player down here. And remember that behavior we put on? I'm going to click this preview button right here. So now you can see that as we move our player around, just from when we put that behavior on, our player responds. However, our player is not showing the animations that we set on the player. We'll set that up later. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to this project panel. We're going to click the X button to temporarily take that away. We're going to go to our properties panel. And, okay, we'll leave that there. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to the upper right. We're going to click this plus button. We're going to go to sprite. And then we're going to name this sprite, because the reason why we went to that plus button was to bring in a new sprite. We're going to name this ship. So then we're going to click this plus button to the right. We're going to click the plus button to the left. And now we're going to go to where I have these sprites set up. So here is our spaceship. So we're going to click open. So now this is fine without behaviors. It's fine just how it is. So we're going to click apply. Then we're going to left click on the ship and then drag this out here. So the ship is too big. So we're going to hold shift. We're going to go to the corner so we can constrain this. And we're going to shrink the ship down some. We're going to shrink it down more. Looks good to me like that.